Hello and welcome along to another episode and a new season from this FM22 One Club story from Hemel Hempstead Town with me, Daniel. We're back today for part 62 of the Tudor Times, and for the first time in a One Club story, we think since FM19, we're celebrating back-to-back promotions. Now, it's not something that often happens the way we play the game, and we're going to introduce the signings we've made to try and step up to the level, the slight change in policy I've had at the club, and also we're going to play our first game and see how we adapt to the level against a very established championship side in Blackburn. So if you're looking forward to all of that and you are enjoying the series, please do chuck a thumbs up on it. If you want to stay up to date and find out how we get on, subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on. As per the community post earlier in the week, keep your eyes peeled for a few new and returning series later this month. And thank you very much as always for your incredible support. You can find the football podcast, the food channel and the Twitch channel for live streams up in the eye above. But let's get cracking, shall we? Because we've got a pretty interesting summer to get through. It certainly wasn't blockbuster. We haven't gone and broken the bank or anything. You can see from our balance and our transfer budget. But we've tried to improve the squad. You've probably noticed a couple of names on this screen, one of whom we were desperate to get last year. And we have given the squad a little bit of depth. So I'm hopeful that maybe, as a few of you have mentioned in the comments, we'll just get that luck of three sides being worse or less lucky than us. Before I head off to the transfers, which we normally start with, I just want to show you the competition screen so you can see the table. Let's do it so you can get the full one without my head in the way. I think that's the closest we can get, isn't it? Oh no, this one's better. Here we go. So, the first thing that stood out to me when we came up to the championship here is that, bar Burnley, there are no starting Premier League teams in this league, so that's quite unusual, I would say, for the 8th season. However, on the flip side of that, it's still got a very championship feel. Some of the perhaps smaller clubs on paper when we started the save, the likes of Peterborough, Blackpool, have been relegated. Peterborough we play in the Carabao Cup. But there is the surprise emergence of Fleetwood, who are currently in a championship. Other than that, though, I'd say this looks like a very strong league. So we'll have a look at the season preview and the odds before we get cracking. I would imagine us or Fleetwood will be expected to finish 24th. Let's go back, though, and start having a look at the transfer news, because it has been big. There's potentially one more youngster going out on loan. I think we're pretty much done in terms of ins, unless we lose any players. We've got to talk about some derisory offers later, and hopefully the chairman doesn't interject this time. And there's also a couple of good returnees as well. We knew what a lot of our summer hinged on, which players we could tempt back on loan, which ones we could sign permanently, etc. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's start with the transfer history and the released players. So probably 4 players off this list you recognise. We've got Matthew Carson at the bottom, who in the early years was a key component for us at left back, played in the National League and I think a bit in League 2, yes he did, but hasn't really kicked on and he's ended up becoming a National League standard player. The other 3 that went, Matt Shenton, he was a youngster we bought from Solihull for about $1.5 grand. Didn't quite develop in the way we'd hoped at 22, and hopefully he builds a good career for himself. The 2 I'm a bit more worried about are these 2 at the top. The club captain from last season, and the experienced centre-half who helped us to promotion. Priestley Farcarson wouldn't sign a new deal. He's now gone to Scunthorpe, who I think are in League 2. They are. They're 17th in League 2. So he's 31 years of age. Look, he probably wasn't going to make the step up. So of the 2, I'm less worried about him. But where we had the situation not knowing if Thornley would come back, no other centre-halves really available. At the time, it was a little bit of a panic for him going. I can confirm we have bought in a centre-half since. In fact, 2 I think that can play centre-half. So hopefully we've managed to improve that position. But you can judge that a bit later on. And then Tristan Nydam, look, he's a bit of a cult hero for me. He came in, he was versatile. He was probably one of those first players who was a real step up in technical quality and mentality. He didn't score a huge amount of goals, but he scored crucial ones. Ultimately, though, he just didn't step up enough in fitness. He couldn't play more than a game a week, which in these 46-game seasons are impossible. And he didn't want to stay as a bit part player, so I understand why at 28 he wants to move on. We lost him for international breaks before too. Obviously, that's not a worry in the Championship. But Cheltenham and Notts County, good League One clubs, and I'm sure he'll do a job at that level still. Let's have a look at the players that have left and joined the club. Okay, let's start with the outs because there was no early work in the window. We were basically waiting for players to come in before we let others go. The first one that did leave the club though, is a player that hadn't really been first choice for a couple of years, which was Mauro Bandera. He's gone to Raith Rovers for free. He's not really improved, but again, we have to remember, like Carson, was a key component of the National League promotion season. Bilal Jesus Garcia left the club again on loan. Basically, I tried to loan him and Berry out once we got two players. One would stay as fourth choice, one would go out on loan, and he was the one who was wanted, so he goes to Salford. We've got a couple that have gone out on loan who we signed earlier in the summer, so we'll come back to them in a minute. And then the one sale is Nathan McGinley, who I didn't realise had an extension in his contract, so he stayed an extra year. But we got 105 grand from AFC Wimbledon. Now, he's 31. He was nowhere near the first team squad come the end of last season. In fact, he made 20 appearances in total, 13 starts, but not many towards the end of the year. £60,000 he cost us. We're making a profit on a 31-year-old. He was absolutely sublime in the promotion winning season. 4 goals, 7 assists, popped up with crucial headers. I mean, he was just fantastic. And again, will be remembered fondly as a great part of our development. But when that opportunity came about to make money on him, my word, I slapped their hand off for it. It was fantastic value for us. You can see we have spent a little bit this summer, 250 grand. Like, that's 260 from the ad up there. But we also got a few early deals in. So let's go and start from the beginning of the window. Now, you may be excited to see that there's 4 youngsters who came in on a free on the first day of the window, just as we had last year with those 4 players that turned out to be phenomenal. But these players aren't the same standards. They're more, look, they're the best of a bunch, so let's gamble on them. One of them will be involved in the first team. The others, as you've seen, have all gone out on loan. So Daniel Senior is the first one who comes in from Arsenal. He is 18 years of age. He's a left back. He's gone out to Yeovil, where I think Garcia was last season. He's a player with massive potential, an okay personality, not quite the fitness. So my hope is he's going to play a lot of games. He's going to develop. And fingers crossed he'll come back a better player, because he has got the potential to be brilliant. It's an England under-18 international. So I just hope he can reach his peak. If he does, we might have a good player. The second one is John Worsfold. He comes from Arsenal as well at 18. A little bit better, this lad, I'd say. He's 2-star ability, 4.5 potential. Listed as a natural centre-half and right-back, but isn't tall, can't jump. So he's going to be a full-back. But I don't think he's a million miles away. He's got a bit more of a balanced attribute set. He's better physically, and he's arguably got a better personality too. So he's gone to the National League to play with Sutton, a club that have obviously been in the Football League that are local. And I just hope he can develop, because he's someone I have faith in to make it at least as a League One Championship standard player. And the third and final one to come from Arsenal is Chijoke Mohammed. Apologies for the awful pronunciation, no doubt. He is an 18-year-old Nigeria under-20 international, again gone to Sutton in the National League to play alongside his teammate. Great jumping reach, great tackler, a little bit liable everywhere else. Not the best personality, so hopefully that will improve with senior football, playing with a good team. But he's got massive potential. And again, if he can unlock anything near half of it, we'll start to get big money for him. So 3 young players on next to no wages that we've taken a bit of a gamble on. The first one who will be involved in the first team is Jason Ferris. Now, he's come on a free from Barnsley, and he's a decent player. Now, the reason I've signed him, you remember like with Camoy Richardson with Scott Egan, he's listed in a different position, but his attributes suit being a centre mid better. So the plan with Ferris, who's an under-21 international for Northern Ireland, is to make use of that exceptional fitness, that aggression, that teamwork, that passing and technique, and get him trained as a centre midfielder. Now, I know he's not the best finisher, but in terms of long shots, his dribbling ability, his technique and passing, he has got that ability to be a box-to-box player. So he's the sort of player I'm hoping to develop, and we'll either find a way for him to get into the first team eventually, he'll reach his peak, or he'll just drop down and get sold on, which he's worth $500,000 already, so wouldn't be bad. Interestingly, he's played 42 games for Barnsley in the league, 11 in the Championship, and 31 in League One, and his rating's pretty good. And that's despite the fact a number of these are off the bench. So he's a player who perhaps does make an impact. And then finally, after a year, we got our man. Rodell Richards is our new second striker. 3-star ability, 3-star potential. You can clearly see the across-the-board step up as a player compared to, say, Javan Malcolm. I think the big difference with Richards to Malcolm is that Richards wants to be a poacher. He wants to play in a specific role we're signing him for. And alongside Ricky, that goal-scoring threat, it just gives me a little bit of faith that we can perhaps stay up this year. I've already seen a couple of comments talking about don't overachieve because the Premier League will be unforgiving. I will assure you now that we won't reach the Premier League this season, and if we do, we'll organise some dares down in the comments and I'll do one of them because I'm that confident it won't happen. However, I believe with those two, with Javan Malcolm and with Stuart Parry, we've got enough attacking quality to maybe see us safe. Let's move on to the later additions to the squad, and this is where the defensive additions come in. So you can see the first one, Adam Wade, has gone out on loan to Yeovil as well. He was just sort of a free transfer that was available. He was 17. He's not got the biggest potential, but he looked like a decent player. So I wanted to take a gamble on him. He was versatile too. Had a couple of games for Yeovil this season already and done all right. But we just thought we'd give him a chance. He was released from Leicester after 3 or 4 years in the academy. And I'm hopefully can become something special. He's got decent determination, an okay personality, and he's got the base physical stats. So at the very worst, he should become a League 1, League 2 player. And again, if we can start to buy young players that will become homegrown at the club and sell them on for a profit, we can then go to the board if we become an established championship club, ask for an under-23 side to compete competitively, and then maybe just start to build a second squad of youngsters who could become the next big thing. For that though, we need another upgrade to facilities, which until we get some TV games, we won't have the money for. The last two signings, though, are the ones that, look, we had to search a bit further for because there weren't great defenders available. And to be fair, there weren't great players on a free available at all. And this is where we've changed our policy a bit. In previous years, you saw when we came up to League 2, and especially that second season with Stevens, Armstrong and the likes, when we couldn't find good young players, instead of, obviously we didn't have transfer fees and that at the time, we were going and looking for experienced players, putting them on big wages, just to try and achieve the next level very quickly. And I'm not going to do that anymore. If we go back down, I'll be disappointed, but it's not a disaster. The last thing I want to do is change the wage structure of this club for players that aren't even that good. And that's what we did with Stevens, that's what we did with Armstrong and people like that a couple of years back. So for this season, we stuck with, I want to find young, hungry players that can still improve. And if I have to go to League 1 clubs and pay a little bit of money, then so be it. That's what we'll do. And that's why we've got Adam Doyle and Alby Armstrong. Adam Doyle was £90,000 for Preston, and I actually think this one's going to be a bit of a steal. I think he's the better of the two, despite being cheaper. Preston are a championship club still, so I don't know why they sold him, but he was on the transfer list. The scouts alerted me. We went and did it. Adam Doyle is a 3-star ability central defender with 5-star potential. He's got under 21 caps for Ireland. He's worth a decent amount of money. Now, the only problem with him is he's not the best ball-playing defender, which is what we like to do, but we can encourage that over time. What I'm really impressed with is his personality, his potential, his physical attributes are phenomenal, he's decent in the air, he's solid mentally, and he's got the key attributes to help us defend. The only one he's slightly missing is positioning, but you know I like to work on that very quickly. I think he's a fabulous player. I really don't understand how we've got someone of that quality so cheap. Very similar to Thornley, it's got to be said. So at the moment, I'm kind of thinking that he will be a starter for us from the start of this season. I know he's only signed as a future prospect, but that was just to keep the wages down within our structure, which I'll show you for next season in a moment. I think he's really solid, and if we can get the positioning up, if we can get him a little better on the ball, I think in time he's going to be a really good player for us. So I'm delighted with that signing for the money. I think he's the sort of player we will make a big profit on. And I hope I'm proven right. I just hope it doesn't happen on January the 31st and taken out of our hands like it was last year with Thornley. Let's move on to the second one, which is Alby Armstrong. So he's actually signed as a backup left back, but he is a natural centre half too. 170,000 from League 1 Portsmouth. He is 3-star ability, 4-star potential, 24 years of age. Again, just over £2,000 a week, which is sort of what most players were commanding to join permanently. But I like him. He's good technically, really good. He's decent going forward, great tackler, marking. He's good in the air, which we like in a fullback. Got a long throw, which might come in later down the line. His positioning again is maybe a slight weakness. He's not got the strongest personality in the world, but he is a player who's physically very good. He's played loads of games, 40 for Wycombe, 18 for Pompey. He's got experience at similar levels to this. He's played in League 2. He's played in the National League. He's working his way up, and he showed in the last season at Pompey, he was too good for League 2. They signed him and made a profit. We're going to do exactly the same. And I'm really pleased with those signings because, like we've had with Derby in our Twitch save, we're not going to be able to sign peak championship ready players at this stage. So we have to sign players who are young, who have got potential, who have got good personalities, and try and mould them into championship players by playing football at a higher level and training with good coaches, which is what we always focus on. On that subject, very quickly, before we get to the first game of the season, we have signed a couple of staff. Let me go and show you who they are. James Beattie is someone I've wanted for a while, but I wasn't able to get him because of the restrictions on numbers. We've got 2 more this year, so he comes in as our attacking technical coach. Fabulous mentally too. And then Dean Whitehead is the other one to come in, a former Premier League footballer, great coach technically, mentally and defensively. And look at his man management. Having those sort of people behind the scenes can only be a good thing for the young players at this club. With that done though, let's go and look at where we're expected to finish this season. Unfortunately, the bank balance hasn't really improved, so we've not been able to request new things yet. I'm hoping that will happen later in the season. Our objective has now changed to fight bravely against relegation. I think the board have sort of seen some common sense. And Greg Wilson, for the first time in 3 summers, hasn't threatened to leave the club at any point. Maybe now he's got a championship club, he's happy with his cash cow. For now though, let's see where we're expected to finish by the media in the championship. The season preview suggests we should be 23rd ahead of Fleetwood. Is exactly what we predicted. Charlton and Coventry were promoted with us. Charlton were by far the best side in League One last year, and Coventry, who came up in the playoffs, expected to finish above, which I find weird. One of our head coach clubs, Sheffield Wednesday, are there, and today's opponents, Blackburn, are supposedly the ultimate mid-table club, so we'll see how they get on. What I do want to very quickly show you in the squad is that there are a couple more familiar names, which I'm delighted about. Harry Thornley is back, and as we predicted, he kept rejecting us up to the 25th of June, but he came back once we agreed championship football. 3,600 quid a week, but he's worth it. There weren't many centre-halves about. This was before we'd spotted Doyle and Armin. I was panicking. He's a great signing. 2 centre-halves with no positioning though, which is a worry. We already knew that Thornhill and McDonough were staying. We've met Richards already. Scott Egan is also back though. The issue with him, who is our highest paid player of 3,800 grand a week, is that Reading wanted an option for us to buy, which I find bizarre because he's out of contract in a couple of years. In fact, it's been renewed now. But as soon as we offered exactly the same terms, if I get his contract up, and then agreed that we would pay an optional future fee of 7.5 million, which we're never going to exercise, they suddenly agreed it. So I know it's a lot of money for those two, but they're not permanent players. They're only here for a year. So it's not like it's a long-term commitment to the club. And it's still not a massive sum of money. If we have a look at our contracts overall, bar them two and Richards on loan, no one's on over 2,300 a week. Alydor Hamilton agreed a deal within the structure eventually, reduced his demands. Same for Javan Malcolm and Zach Geacock as well, who's going to be our number 1 at the minute. I'm still on a slight lookout for a keeper. But I feel we've got a pretty decent squad here. It's certainly somewhere between League One and Championship standard, rather than being an outright Championship team. If we lose some of our stars, though, we might be in trouble. So with all of that wrapped up, let's go and face Blackburn. The first game at Championship level for this club. I've got some decisions to make in the starting 11. I'm going to keep it fairly familiar for now. But let's get the opposition instructions on. Let's pick the assistants 11. And I'll be back in a minute to run through it once I've picked mine. So first things first, no tactical changes. Bullock's fully fit as a number 10 after his injury last season, and I've tried to keep it more familiar for the start of the year. So actually, I think Rodell Richards, he is the only new signing in the team. We've gone for Alydor Hamilton and Reed in midfield. We've gone for Thornley and Brian Waugh at centre-half. And in the likes of Doyle, Armin, Ferris are all on the bench, and they can come in midweek for the cup game, and if they do well, then start the next weekend. So a slight risk for today, but I'm going for familiarity over new quality, especially because the defensive ones joined very late in the window, only just over 2 weeks ago. What it does mean though is we've got real firepower on the bench. 3 good new signings, Hazeman, Swan, Malcolm, Parry. Loads of attacking force, loads of power, and I'm hoping it will get us through. The lineup in full. Very familiar feel is Zach Geacock in goal, Thornhill and Bennett Sheriff the fullbacks with Brian Waugh and Thornley centre-half. Egan, Alydor Hamilton, Reed and Bullock the midfield diamond, with Jones and Richards up front. If Richards can get scoring, if Jones and Bullock can recreate the first half of last season, we're going to have a good year, and I think we'll be safe. Against Blackburn, though, a mid-table side on the road, this is going to be a very difficult test without a couple of key players like McDonough. Can we get a result? Let me know in the comments what you think. We'll see how it works out. Right then, let's have a look at the Blackburn team, which has got a little bit of a familiar feel to it still. Joe Rankin Costello's there, and then Darragh Lenihan's still skipper. But there's a lot of other players in this squad that are great. On the bench, they've got Jacob Ramsey, one of the stars of our Twitch stream with Derby. They've got Antoine Semenyo, who's a good player. Luke Matheson, former Wonder Kid. And even in the starting lineup, Lyndon Dykes. Dominguez Keane, I haven't seen that name for a while. This is a very strong side. And it shows the difference between a League One and the Championship. I would imagine where Charlton were dominant in League One, they'll be a mid-table Championship team, despite what the pre-season odds say. And we've got to compete with sides like that every week. So let's get the lads motivated. Let's get into the first half. And just hope that with a familiar lineup, we've got that momentum to see us through. As we've got a throw on the right-hand side. Quiet 10 minutes to start as Hamilton releases Bullock. Can he recapture that form before his injury? As Egan from distance. I tell you what, I don't think I've ever seen him shoot from distance in this save. First day in the Championship, he wants to be in the headlines. Loads of fans at Ewood Park. I'll be interested to see what we get. We'll have a look at our season ticket tales in the next episode for the first home game on camera. But with 15 gone here, we look the better side as Arthur Reed puts a free kick in. Ricky J. Jones is up. It does not matter what level you play this man at. As long as he is in the team, Ricky J. Jones will score you goals. And the first 13 minutes here, I know it's only 13 minutes, has made me an awful lot more confident. Well, it's all gone very quiet until now. 4 minutes to the break and we're back in a very attacking position for Blackburn. Lots of players working hard. Alador Hamilton, fabulous pressing. Though he's out of position now as Hall picks it up 30 yards out. Great save, Zach Geacock. Another player that I'm not sure is ready to make the Championship step up. But the beauty is when you get a position like this for the Blackburn corner, it goes over the bar. When you have to play these players at a level that you're not sure about, they either have a great year and really develop, or you know very quickly by January you've got to replace them. At half-time though, I know Blackburn are slightly better on the stats. They very much came into the game after our opening goal. But we lead 1-0, and our man's scoring again. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is the perfect away display so far. And we're back at the hour mark as Thornhill throws in from the left-hand side. The fact that we're keeping this quite quiet is a really good sign with what is essentially our League One backline. Arthur Reed goes back to Hamilton. Egan's with him in support. Reed playing nice football. We picked him over Hazeman because of his leadership and his set pieces. And both have been productive so far. As it switched to Bennett Sheriff on the right to Alador Hamilton. The Sheriff again. Not in a rush. Keeping the ball very composed. Happy to take it in tight spaces. And at the moment we look really good. As Alador Hamilton again. Can someone unlock that door? At the moment, it's just possession for the sake of it. But this is a long highlight, and it normally leads to one thing. Let's hope it's not a defensive error for us. As Thornley, over halfway, he tries to do it. Through the lines to Bullock. Been quiet today, but finds Jones. He shoots from distance and rattles the woodwork. Oh my word, Ricky J. Jones is up for it. He loves stepping up to the new level. We're going to take Bullock off soon, because this is his first real competitive action for God knows how long. Richards hasn't had the best debut, but I'd expect him to have 3 or 4 poor games. Everyone else has been great, and I don't want to change them. So it's going to be Richards off for Javan Malcolm. It's going to be Bullock off for Will Swan. And then in 10 more, I'll probably do Hamilton for Hazeman, just for the extra height. We'll see how it goes. In the second half, Blackburn have had no threat and no shots on target. And as soon as I say that, they're back with a highlight. Into the box, Thornley heads away. He's had a really solid game. Garrett picks it up first though. Here's Keener to Lemaker. Through ball, Thornley, brilliant challenge. Brian Moore clears. And there's the understanding as Jones chips it up. Javan Malcolm's in. Never scores early in the season. And he continues that trend. That is an awful effort. And he goes a million miles wide of the post. Egan is knackered. Hamilton's knackered. So I'm going to make the sub. Hamilton off. Kalon Hazeman on. And after talking all about these new defenders we'd spent fairly big money in Hemel terms on, it's the old guard that are doing the job and potentially keeping a clean sheet. We've dropped to cautious, we've dropped the fullback duties, and what a start that is. I just don't know what to say about these lads. Ricky J. Jones steps up again, Arthur Reed steps up again. The back 5, a League One standard team, the fullback 5 that played last year were phenomenal. You see the importance there of getting Egan and Thornley back. And you know what? I think we can do it. Well done to the lads, a brilliant performance. Now let's go and see when we'll next be back. Well, there we go. Playoffs, anyone? I'm only kidding. What a win. Look, if we can get 10, 15 early points before that momentum from promotion dries up, a few of you mentioned it in the comments, it gives us a much better chance. What a start, though. We'll rotate completely against Peterborough. And then we can just hope we can keep this form up. It's not actually going to be that long before we're back, because we're going to show transfer deadline day. Either side of it are Hull and Huddersfield. Hull is our first home game on camera, so we're going to show that. It's a chance against a side who are expected to be in that relegation scrap with us. They're predicted to be fourth bottom. So we're going to show Hull at home, and then we're going to show transfer deadline day, because we've got a good team now. But if we could just add one or two little nuggets to the squad to make it a little stronger, then I'd be a very happy man. We haven't really got any loan options left. We've already got 5 at the club. So it's about finding a couple more cheap deals. Will we do it? Well, join me next time to find out. If you want to stay up to date, subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on. If you enjoyed our transfer special and our big win at the start of the season, arguably against the runner play, please do chuck a thumbs up on it. Let me know in the comments what you think of my transfer work, my transfer policy, and where we're going to finish this year. Because despite that first win of the season, it's still going to be one hell of a scrap. Although, look at our pre-season form, even against good sides. We're starting a new season in the head coach tomorrow as well, so that one should be exciting too. Please do make sure you check it out. There's a link to that playlist, the podcast channel, the Twitch channel, and the food channel up in the eye above. But a massive thank you for watching, your continued support as always. It's going to be a tough season, but if that's anything to go by, these lads are going to make us proud. I'll see you next time to find out if we can keep it up.